Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're taking a look at a highly practical instructional text on how to confidently introduce yourself in English.
Right, yeah.
And we are going to use it to extract the ultimate blueprint for surviving that completely universal, like, deer in the headlights moment.
So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right. You know the
Yeah.
exact moment I mean. You
Yeah.
walk into a room, maybe it's a new classroom or a high-stakes meeting at work, or you're just at some networking event.
Yeah, you're just standing there.
Exactly. Things are fine. And then suddenly someone turns to you, they smile, and they say those 5 terrifying words. Tell me about yourself.
It is genuinely the moment where time just stops completely.
It stops. Your mind goes entirely blank. You're standing there and you feel like, I don't know, every single word of English you have ever learned has just evaporated into thin air.
Just gone. Poof.
Right. So our mission today is to sort of crack the code on how to make a totally stress-free first impression when your brain pulls that disappearing act.
Which is such a valuable skill.
Right. It really is. And we're going to show you that you absolutely do not need an advanced vocabulary, and you certainly don't need flawless grammar to command a room and just be understood.
Which I think brings us to a really fascinating paradox that's presented right at the beginning of our source materials today.
Yeah, let's get into that.
Well, when we freeze up in those high-pressure moments, our first instinct is usually to blame our vocabulary, right?
Oh, definitely.
We think like, oh, I just didn't know enough big words, or my grammar wasn't complex enough for this crowd.
We always think it's a lack of complexity.
Exactly. But the underlying philosophy of this instructional text argues the exact opposite. Fluency in these moments isn't about complexity at all.
Not even a little bit.
No. In fact, the entire approach is summed up in this one brilliant line from the text. It says, "Clear English is powerful English."
Clear English is powerful English. I mean, that immediately takes the pressure off, doesn't it?
It really does. It's so freeing.
But to solve the problem of freezing up, I feel like we have to look at why the brain freezes in the first place, you know?
Right, the root cause.
Yeah, because the materials we're reviewing suggest that we freeze precisely because we overcomplicate things. We try to do way too much at once.
Which is such a natural human tendency when we're nervous.
So true. And because of that, the text offers this sort of life raft. It's a very specific, incredibly simple 3-part structure to use whenever you have to introduce yourself.
And it really is remarkably simple.
It is. The formula is just name, detail, question. That's it.
It sounds almost deceptive, right? Because it's just so brief. Name, detail, question.
Yeah.
But it works because it directly targets that root cause of the mental blankness we were just talking about.
Okay, let's unpack this, because when I first saw this 3-part formula, I immediately thought of like the classic 3-act structure in a movie.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Right, just shrunk down to 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So Act 1 is the setup, that's your name. Act 2 is the context, the detail. And Act 3 is the cliffhanger, which is the question that leaves the other person ready to engage.
I love that analogy.
But looking at it practically, is a 3-word formula really enough? I mean, if you're walking into a room full of executives, relying on something this basic feels like, I don't know, like you're under-preparing.
I totally get that hesitation. It feels too easy,
Yeah?
but it absolutely holds up. And the reason why is deeply rooted in how our brains handle stress.
Okay, how so?
Well, what's fascinating here is that cognitive mechanics of an introduction, especially if you're operating in a language that you're still mastering, you know.
Right, because there's so much going on behind the scenes.
Exactly. In that moment, your brain is attempting to juggle this massive amount of data.
Oh, for sure.
You're translating thoughts into English, you're searching your mental dictionary for the right vocabulary, you're actively monitoring your grammar to make sure you don't make a mistake.
While also trying to figure out if the other person actually likes you.
Yes, you're scanning their facial expressions for approval and simultaneously managing this huge spike in cortisol, which is your physical anxiety.
Right, so your prefrontal cortex is basically just working in massive overdrive.
It's completely overloaded.
It's like opening 40 tabs on your web browser while running, I don't know, a heavy software update in the background. The system just crashes.
That is exactly what happens. You literally run out of working memory.
Wow.
So by adopting this strict, rigid structure, name, detail, question, you drastically limit the variables your brain has to compute in real time.
Because you don't have to invent a whole narrative arc on the spot.
Precisely. You just fill in 3 predetermined blanks. By reducing the cognitive load, You protect your working memory.
That makes so much sense.
And that freed up mental energy can then be redirected toward your delivery. Keeping your breathing steady and actually connecting with the human being standing right in front of you.
So you aren't just simplifying the words, you are literally setting up guardrails to keep your brain from short-circuiting?
That's a great way to put it.
So if we know the structure is the cure, let's look at how people actually execute it. And maybe more importantly, how our own psychology tries to sabotage the first two steps.
Oh, it always tries to sabotage us.
Right. Let's start with Act 1 and Act 2, the name and the detail.
The setup and the context.
Exactly. So for the name, the text is crystal clear, keep it short and calm.
Very short.
Yeah, the examples are super straightforward. Hi, I'm David. Or, hello, my name is Sarah.
All right, you do not need a grand sweeping opening. You just state your name.
Just your name. And then we move to the detail. The instruction here is to add exactly one short detail about yourself.
Yes.
This could be your job, your school, your city, your country, or even just your purpose for being in the room.
And I think we really have to emphasize the operative word there, which is one.
One.
Just one.
One single short detail.
Yes, like I'm a student, or I'm from Kenya. I'm visiting from Lagos.
Exactly. Keep it contained. But here is where we fall into a major trap, right? The text highlights that a huge pitfall for beginners is the urge to speak for way too long.
Oh yeah, mistake number one.
And also mistake number 3, which is trying to use unnecessarily difficult English. The tendency is to try and tell your entire life story in that very first opening breath.
Which never goes well.
No. People start rambling, they try to reach for complex vocabulary to sound smart, they inevitably forget a word, and then the panic just sets in.
Yeah, we call that the temptation of the biography.
Mm-hmm.
And it stems from a really very human place.
How do you mean?
Well, when we walk into a room, especially a new or intimidating one, imposter syndrome flares up big time.
Oh, absolutely.
We feel this intense psychological urge to justify our presence there. We think we have to lay out our entire resume right then and there just to prove that we belong.
But let me push back on that for a second, because I think a lot of people listening might feel this way.
Sure, go ahead.
If I just give one tiny detail like, hi, I'm David, I'm a student, doesn't that make me sound completely unremarkable?
I can see why you'd think that.
Like, if I'm meeting someone important, shouldn't I try to impress them by explaining, what I'm studying and why I'm passionate about it?
It is a totally natural fear to want to sound impressive. But the underlying research into human attention shows that in first introductions, simple words are actually much stronger.
Really?
Yeah, what's fascinating here is that when you launch into a long, complex introduction, you are forcing the other person to process a massive amount of new information from a total stranger all at once.
Wow. I guess that is a lot to ask of someone you just met.
It is. The text points out that long, convoluted intros usually just cause the listener to completely tune out.
So they basically stop listening before you even hit the period at the end of your first sentence.
Precisely. They just get overwhelmed. So instead of thinking that one detail is your entire identity, you should think of it as a stepping stone.
A stepping stone. Okay.
Yeah, you're just placing one solid stone in the river so the other person has a safe place to step.
Okay, I like that visual.
So saying, I work in sales or I'm from Kenya, that isn't your whole biography. Nor should it be. It's an invocation.
Right.
It gives the listener one clear, easily digestible piece of information that they could effortlessly respond to. It isn't about being boring. It's about being accessible.
Wow, that reframes it completely for me.
It makes a huge difference.
Because if I try to use big words and this long, meandering story to sound impressive, I'm actually just building a wall between me and the other person.
Yes,
I
exactly.
am making it cognitively harder for them to figure out how to talk to me.
That's exactly it. Complex vocabulary is not inherently better. Simple words have power because they're universally understood and they just sound natural.
Right.
You want to reduce friction in the conversation, not add to it.
All right, so you have provided your stepping stone. You've said, hi, I'm Ahmed, I work in sales.
Okay.
But if you just stop right there, the interaction takes a very awkward nosedive.
A total nosedive.
You're just staring at each other. Ahmed works in sales and cue the crickets. The silence just becomes deafening.
The worst feeling.
And that brings us to the crucial third step, Act 3, which is the engine that keeps the interaction alive. The question.
Without a doubt, this is the most critical part of the formula if your actual goal is to make a human connection.
Yeah, the instructional material tells us we absolutely must end the introduction with a question to open the floor.
Right. It's non-negotiable.
It gives examples like, what about you? Or how about you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Simple questions.
Exactly. And it warns against two major pitfalls here. The first is simply, mistake number 5, forgetting to ask a question at all.
Which happens a lot when people are nervous.
It does. And the second is mistake number 6, which is memorizing one rigid script and repeating it like a robot instead of adapting the question to the actual human being in front of you.
Right, because asking a genuine question is what transforms the moment from a presentation into a relationship.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Think of asking a question like passing a tennis ball over the net.
Oh, I like that.
When you walk up and introduce yourself, you're holding the ball. Hi, my name's Sarah. I'm a teacher.
Right.
If you stop there and don't ask a question, you're just standing at the baseline, holding a tennis ball, staring aggressively at your opponent across the net.
Yeah, the game cannot happen.
Exactly. But the moment you append, where are you from, you hit the ball over the net. Now it's their turn to hit it back.
I really like that visual. And if we connect this to the bigger picture of social dynamics, asking that question does something incredibly important for your own nervous system.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, it shifts the conversational spotlight entirely off of you and onto the other person.
Okay, so it's essentially a defensive mechanism as much as an offensive one.
Yes.
You're literally buying yourself time to breathe and regroup.
Exactly. When you are talking about yourself, all the pressure's on your shoulders. You're wondering, am I speaking clearly? Is my accent too thick? Did I use the right verb tense?
All those internal monologues.
Right. But the second you ask, what about you? The spotlight swings away. You transform a highly stressful monologue into a collaborative dialogue.
That is so powerful.
It is. You get to stop producing language, take a physical breath, and just listen. People naturally love talking about themselves anyway, so you're actually doing them a massive favor by giving them the floor.
By ending with a question, you aren't just being polite. You are basically recruiting them to carry half the weight of the interaction.
That is the magic of it. And this perfectly illustrates why the text strongly warns against memorizing a single static script.
Right, because that's not a real conversation.
Exactly. If you just memorize the exact phrase, "Hi, I am Peter, I study business, what about you?" and you deploy it blindly in every single situation, you aren't actually playing tennis.
You're just hitting a ball against a brick wall.
Bingo. The text emphasizes learning the structure, the mechanics of the formula. The structure is a tool you can use anywhere, but adapting that final question to the specific context is what proves you are actually present in the room.
Okay, so we have the exact words to say. We have the architecture name, detail, question. We know we're playing tennis, not giving a lecture.
Yeah.
But there's a catch. The source makes a really compelling case that you can have this 3-part formula memorized perfectly, and it will still completely fail if your body language betrays your anxiety.
Oh, absolutely.
How you physically deliver these words dictates whether the formula actually works, because your nervous system will try to sabotage these 3 simple sentences.
The delivery is where the theory has to survive the real world.
And the instructions on this are very specific in the text. It says you need to speak slower than your normal pace.
Much slower.
You should take a deliberate small pause after your name. Take another small pause after your detail. Breathe. Relax your shoulders.
Which is easier said than done.
Truly. And use a friendly, warm tone. Do not speak like a robot. And it specifically points out the dangers of mistake number 2, speaking too quietly, or mistake number 4, getting so focused on your words that you completely forget to smile.
Yeah, it's essentially painting a picture of someone who is totally at ease in their own physical body, which, as we know, is incredibly hard to fake when you are stressed.
But I have to ask you about this because this feels like the hardest part of the whole text for me.
What's that?
Well, the instruction is to take a small pause. But when you are terrified, when you are in the middle of a massive cortisol spike, a 2-second deliberate pause feels like an hour of agonizing, humiliating silence.
It really does.
Your heart is just pounding in your ears. So how do you force yourself to slow down and pause when your brain is literally screaming at you to rush and just get it over with as fast as humanly possible?
It is an awful feeling. Time dilation during a panic is very real. It feels like the silence is physically crushing you.
Yes.
But the text provides this profound wisdom here. When people are nervous, they instinctively rush. And rushing is exactly what causes you to trip over your words and blank out.
So the rushing is the catalyst for the blanking. You're
Yeah.
trying to outrun the anxiety.
Yes, you are basically trying to flee the conversation.
Yeah.
But slowing down and forcing that pause, even if it feels like a painful eternity in your own head, actually hacks your nervous system.
Really? It's a biological thing.
There is a biological mechanism at play here, yeah.
Yeah.
When you deliberately pause, drop your shoulders and take a deep breath, you stimulate the vagus nerve.
Oh, okay.
You are sending a biological signal from your body back up to your brain saying, hey, we are not being chased by a predator. We are safe.
So you are actively short-circuiting the fight or flight response just by refusing to speak fast.
You are. And we have to consider how it looks externally, too.
Right.
To the person watching you, that 2-second pause doesn't look like fear. It looks like power. It projects massive clarity and control.
That's a huge perspective shift.
Right. Think about people who speak incredibly fast during introductions. They seem frantic, nervous, eager to please.
Yeah, they seem anxious.
But people who take their time, who let their name hang in the air for a second, who relax their shoulders, they command the space. They project absolute confidence, even if they are absolutely terrified inside.
That makes the instruction to smile make a lot more sense too, because if you are dedicating all your brain power to translating vocabulary and avoiding grammatical errors, your face probably looks like you're trying to defuse a bomb. So your facial expressions just shut down.
When cognitive load is high, our micro-expressions flatten out entirely. We look robotic or even angry without realizing it.
Right.
A small, intentional smile doesn't just make you seem friendly and open to the other person. Evolutionary biology tells us that smiling actually reinforces to your own brain that this new encounter is not a threat.
Oh, wow.
And the text reminds us of a very practical point, too. If people cannot hear you because you're mumbling into your shoes, they cannot connect with you.
Right.
Adequate volume and a warm tone carry just as much weight as the vocabulary itself.
So let's apply this warm tone and pacing to different environments. The core structure doesn't change, but the text gives some excellent examples of how you swap out that middle detail depending on the specific room you were standing in.
Right. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all detail.
Yeah. The architecture remains rigid, but the context dictates the furnishings, so to speak.
I like that.
For example, if you are walking into a job interview, you probably shouldn't say, "Hey, I'm Rita, what about you?"
No, definitely not.
The text suggests tweaking the detail and the tone. So you'd say, "Good morning, my name is Rita. I have experience in customer service. I'm happy to be here today." Or, "Good morning, I'm Daniel. I'm excited to be here."
Notice how the single detail in that professional setting is focused on value and gratitude.
Right?
It is still short. It doesn't list out a 10-year work history, but the tone is appropriately elevated for an interview.
But then, if you're at a casual networking event or a party, the text gives us this example. "Hey, I'm Rita. I'm a friend of the host. How about you?"
Much more casual.
Exactly. Or if you are in a learning environment, "Hello, I'm Joseph. I'm here to learn English. I'm glad to meet everyone."
Yeah.
It demonstrates how you can organically sprinkle in what it calls warmth phrases. Things like, "Nice to meet you. I'm happy to be here," or "It's great to meet you."
Those warmth phrases really act as the social lubricant. They soften the edges of the interaction and make the structured formula sound completely natural and conversational.
Yeah, they do.
But the brilliant part is that even with a warmth phrase added in, the core 3-part blueprint, name, detail, question, remains entirely intact. It never spirals into a complicated paragraph.
So what does this all mean? We have journeyed through the visceral anxiety of the blank mind, we've looked at the cognitive overload that causes it, and we have unpacked the cure provided in the text.
We covered a lot.
It all boils down to trusting the architecture. Name, detail, question, and wrapping that structure in the golden rule. Clear English is powerful English.
Don't rush.
Don't rush. Pause to hack your nervous system. Smile to signal safety. Don't let your ego trap you into telling your whole life story right up front. Just leave a clear stepping stone and then toss the tennis ball over the net with a simple question.
And remember, the ultimate goal of an introduction is not to sound grammatically flawless. The goal is just to establish a clear human connection.
Exactly. Before we wrap up today's deep dive, the material actually issues a very specific challenge, and I want to pass it directly on to you, the listener.
Oh, this is a great exercise.
The text challenges you to practice this 3-part introduction 3 times today. Say it out loud in front of a mirror. Say it while you are walking around your house or your neighborhood. And most importantly, say it while recording your own voice on your phone.
Recording your voice is arguably the most powerful tool for this.
Oh, definitely.
When you listen back, It strips away your subjective experience.
Hmm.
You can actually hear if you're genuinely pausing or if you're just rushing through it in a panic like we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Yes. The more you run through the mechanics, the more natural the pacing feels. You are building muscle memory. So the next time you walk into a room and someone drops those 5 words, tell me about yourself, you won't have to think.
The structure will just be there, ready to go.
You know, we have spent this entire time analyzing how this simple formula helps when you are operating in a second language or when you're fighting through the nerves of being a beginner.
Yeah.
But looking at the psychology behind it raises an important question, and it is something worth chewing on long after we sign off today.
Oh, I love a good lingering thought. What is it?
Well, if this simple less is more formula works so brilliantly for overcoming language barriers, reducing cognitive load, and genuinely connecting with people, how much of our communication in our native languages is completely overcomplicated?
Oh, that is a really good point.
Think about how often, even when speaking our mother tongue effortlessly, we let our egos take the wheel. We use unnecessarily complex jargon to sound smart. We ramble on about our achievements to prove our status. We try so hard to curate an impressive image that we forget to just be clear.
Just forget that the whole point is just to connect with another human being.
Right? It makes you wonder, maybe native speakers need this exact same life raft. Maybe we all need to strip away the ego and go back to basics. Name, detail, question.
That is a profound point. We overcomplicate everything to protect our egos and prove we belong in the room, when really, clarity and a genuine question are what people actually want from us.
Exactly. Clear communication is powerful communication, no matter what language you're speaking.
Absolutely.
Well, the next time you are staring down a room full of expectant faces, remember, you do not need to deliver a masterpiece. You just need a stepping stone, a tennis ball, and a very deep breath. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep it simple, keep it calm, and we will catch you next time.